Hello, how are you today? Welcome to Facebook Live. It's Sunday at 4:30 here in Virginia. If you're catching this at another time, I hope you're having a great day. It's hot here, but it's nice and cool in the store. Today we're going to talk about how to pick colors. So I wore my most colorful shirt that I could find. It's a little gross, but I'm kind of enjoying it. Before we get to that, I just want to talk to you about a couple things that are happening in the store. We're going to keep the same hours for the foreseeable future. See what happens here with spikes or anything. We'll be open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 until 5. That's what we've been doing the last couple of weeks. It's working great. Any needs that occur outside of those hours, please just call the shop. There's usually someone here in the mornings, and lots of times there's someone here in the afternoons, and you can just pop in and they'll be happy to help you. But make sure you call because they're not always here. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 11 till 5, we are here. Please, when you come into the shop, make sure that you have a mask to wear so that everybody stays safe. I think everybody's getting used to that, and I don't know if you're enjoying it or not, but we're at least getting used to it. So, also in the store, we wanted to talk about a little bit of a sale that's coming up on one of our yarns. We have, and a lot of you have knit with this because we've done a lot of projects on Tuesday nights with this. We have the LRA Cozy Soft Chunky and the LRA Cozy Soft. These are two really nice yarns to knit with. They have some acrylic in them with a blend of wool. We have lots of colors, and we're just kind of doing a little flash sale on these guys. So starting Thursday, I don't know what the day is, I'm sorry. The 11th. Thursday, thank you, Shelley. Thursday the 11th, these guys will be on sale at 25% off. So that's the LRA Cozy Soft Chunky and the LRA Cozy Soft. And if you want to come in and see the colors that we have, that'd be great. If you're not comfortable coming in, give us a call and we can tell you all about the different yarns and the colors that they come in and see if we can help you out. And these are a good price to begin with. So at 25% off, you can get sweater quantity and really make a nice garment. These are very nice yarns. So that's coming up. Also, I wanted to let you know that we will be closed on Saturday, July 4th. So everybody can go out and get a hot dog and some apple pie and celebrate America, and that'll be fun. I guess. All right. And then, sorry. I don't know where I was going with that. I also wanted to remind you of the bag that Pam selected for this month's project of the month. It's the mosaic knitting bag, the Lisa Richardson design. We talked about it last week. This was her colorway. This has been going great. We've had wonderful response to this. Lots of people are choosing colorways that we chose at the store, but a lot of you are being adventurous and coming in and picking out your own also. And this is made with Rowan's felted tweed, and it's a great market bag. It's got the sides in it, so you have a little bit of structure. It's not just a flat bag. So if you'd like more information on that, it's the pattern, which is called don't tell me,
slip stitch bag.
The Lisa Richardson slip stitch bag. It looks like this. You can get more information about that on Ravelry, or you can just give the store a call and we'll be happy to help you out and help you select some yarns. Which leads us into our topic for today. Hey everybody, it's nice that you're all on there. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Our topic for today is choosing colors with confidence, so that you are coming into the shop with a mindset that yes, you can pick your own colors. We love helping you. Don't get me wrong. We absolutely love it. We think it is one of the best parts of our job because it's kind of like shopping for us through somebody else. We get to pick, everybody has their own things that they like and they kind of come out in the colors that we pick when we help you. But we also want you to be comfortable and enjoy coming in and experimenting and finding out just exactly what you like and not necessarily what we think looks good. So there are 4 different ways, well there's probably a lot of ways, but there's 4 different ways that we're going to discuss today on how you can pick your colors for your next project. Now, if you're doing a single color sweater or a single color hat or a single color cowl, you're probably going to go with just a color that you like. You know, most of us have at least one color that we gravitate to, or you see a beautiful shade of teal and you know you want to make something out of that. We usually don't have to help people with the one color thing. It's okay if we do, but usually people kind of get that and they're happy with their one color. We're talking about when you're going to be combining colors, for example, like in this bag, or if you're going to do a 2-color striped hat or something like that. So there's about 4 different ways that we're going to talk about today. And the first one is for you just to come in on your own, don't ask for help, and just take a risk. Because how bad can it be, really? It's going to work out. You may get surprised. You may think, you know, this isn't exactly what I wanted. I'm going to learn from this. But you can do this. Now, for those of you that aren't quite as risk taker as some of the others, you can come in and ask for help, and we'll help you. That's method number 2. The third method, and one of my very favorite methods, and it doesn't require you learning any color theory or even asking anyone for help, go to, I'm going to say Lowe's or Home Depot, but I'm sure that there are other hardware stores out there that would be fine. I'm not advocating for any of them. And pick up their paint cards in the paint department. They have, for example, this one has a beautiful setup of 3 colors that were used in this room. This room is very harmonious in color. It's very pleasing to the eye. I didn't have to do any work. If you think, oh wow, I really like this teal yarn, I wonder what else I could put with it, here's a couple of examples. I have about 100 of these at home. I love my paint cards from the big, I go to the big box stores. And there's some combinations that I never would have thought to put together that are absolutely beautiful when you can see them out with the paint chips. And then you just bring your little color card in and you match up the colors to the yarn. And that always works. It's a great thing. These people don't want to sell their paint and have you get an ugly room. So they've put a lot of work into color theory on how these colors go together. They've done it all for you, but it's still kind of your own because at least you get to pick out of your own cards. The next thing, and the fourth one, and the one that takes a little bit of effort and work, is our color wheel. So this is the main tool of color theory and how to pick colors with confidence and get them so they are going to present the mood that you want to present with your garment. Lots of times these are in different art books. Some knitting books put a color wheel in. I got this color wheel at some point in time at Michael's. You can get them at paint stores. They're not, and I guess this is a pretty good one. I don't know, but it's good enough for me. So before we get into how to use a color wheel, I want to talk about a little bit of vocabulary. It's very interesting. Do you know that Isaac Newton invented the color wheel? He came up with this. So the same guy with the apple and the gravity was into color too. And it was in 1666 that happened. So this has been around for a while, and people have used it in architecture, in paintings, in current culture. They're using it for website designs. When a store puts up a logo or a sign, the color wheel is probably used to pick those colors that are going to grab the attention of whoever the audience is for that particular product. So this has been around a while. It does work. Before we talk about how to use this actual wheel, I just want to talk a couple terms that people sometimes come in, and one of us will say something and I think a lot of times people don't understand, even I don't understand, like what words we're using when we're describing color. When we talk about a color, you're talking about a hue. That is not my Uncle Hugh. I have an Uncle Hugh. H-U-E. The hue is the pure color, like red or green or blue or purple or whatever. So the saturation of that hue is how intense it is. So the higher the saturation, the brighter the color is going to be. If a color like blue, if someone says, well, that's a desaturated blue, that means that it's kind of a muted kind of blue. It's kind of quieter, where a saturated or intense color has a high saturation of dye in it, so it appears much, much brighter. And some people gravitate toward the desaturated colors. Some people gravitate toward the saturated colors. We all have our own preferences, but there is a term for that. In addition to hue and saturation, there's the value of a color. And the value of a color is how light it is. So a light blue would have a very low value, where a dark blue has a higher value. So value is often used when describing colors, and now you know what it means. It's how light or dark something is, light being the lower of the values. When this is a word we hear all the time when somebody comes in and says, oh, I don't like that shade. I say it all the time. Oh, don't you want a different shade of that? Shade actually has a meaning in this whole color wheel. The shade is when we take the actual color, let's say red, and add 1 drop of black, or 2 drops of black, or 6 drops of black. That's changing the shade of the color. Who knew? It's very interesting. The tint of a color is when we take the color itself and add white. So if you were working with that red and you were adding white to it, you would eventually get down to pink. So pink is actually the red on the color wheel, but just a very light tint of it because it has a lot of white in it. So shade and tint do have actual meanings. The tone of a color is how much gray is in that color. So the gray tone we often refer to when somebody is looking at colors and we say, well, you want something with a whiter base. That means that the tone of something that you've picked a color that just has a little too much gray in it, and you want to get something of the different tint, something that's whiter, because maybe your other colors are all white based. And that's usually a good rule of thumb when you're choosing your colors, is to either go with tints of a hue or shades of a hue. And you can tell just by laying them out on the table, oh, I've made a mistake here. This one doesn't fit. And it's probably because you have a shade when you should have a tint of that hue. So that's something to look out for. Now that we know some vocabulary when we're discussing this, we can move on. Okay, on this color wheel, we have 2 halves. We have, let's see. Okay, I think I'm turning it, but I'm turning it a different way. This half over here is the warm half. The blues, the purples, the greens, these are our warmer colors. They give a feeling of relaxation. They give a feeling of calmness. They give a feeling of tranquility. And if you put all of your colors together from this side of the color wheel, you're going to get a garment that radiates that. Sometimes it gets a little too calm. Sometimes it gets a little too boring. And that's when we tell you, hey, you need a pop. You need a pop of color somewhere. And then we often transfer over to the other side of the color wheel with the yellows and the reds and the oranges. And when those are our warm colors, and they usually radiate like happiness and fun and joy. But if you have all your colors from this warm side, it can be overwhelming. So you can be walking down the street and somebody's like, well, yow, all right, it's just too much. So then your pop of color may come from the opposite side. So as you're starting to get familiar with the color wheel, if you find yourself gravitating toward the cooler shades, don't forget about your friends in the warm side. They need to come into the picture too. You need them. Even if you want to go with greens and blues and purples, lots of times just pick one color from that opposite side, and that'll give it just a little spark of interest that you need. So that's the first thing that we're going to look at, or we looked at here on our color wheel. The second thing is to talk about these actual colors themselves. When the color wheel was started, it started with red, yellow, and blue. Those are our primary colors. You can't get any other color any shade, any tint, any value of any other color without at least having a red, a yellow, or a blue as part of that color. They're necessary for all other colors, disregarding white and black because we're not considering white and black as colors right now. So after the three main ones, we have, and again, those are our primaries. Then we have our secondary colors. And our secondary colors are when you take two primaries and blend them. So for example, red and yellow, and then you get the orange, or blue and red, and then you get purple, or blue and yellow, and then you get green. Those are our next 6 sections on the color wheel. After those, after primary and then secondary, we have our tertiary colors. And that's when you take a primary color and blend it with a secondary color. For example, red, and then maybe blend it with the orange. And then you get a 2-name color, red, orange. Now, if you have the box of crayons with all the colors from Crayola, sometimes they give a little bit fancier name. But in the art world, the tertiary colors always have 2 names. And they're always a primary color and a secondary color blended together. And they're very important. It's important we use those. Now, you can get much more complicated color wheels than this that have more pie-shaped sections, but that's the main 3 types of colors and how we get those. Everything else comes from either adding black, adding white, or adding gray to get your different values, or different shades, or different tints. When you're picking your colors from your color wheel, now that we know what they're called, there's a couple of different schemes that you can follow, and if you follow these, you're guaranteed to get a product that you are going to find, well, I shouldn't say that you're guaranteed to get something that's pleasing, because you just might not like it, but the colors are going to go together. So the first one is a monochromatic colorway. And that doesn't mean one color. Monochromatic means you take the actual hue and then you take either shades of it or hints of it, tints of it, and use those different colors. So if we were going to work with red, we would either take red and then do some different reds that are combined with blacks and get some of the maroons and the cranberries and the burgundies and that kind of thing. And that would give the monochromatic shading of red. If we wanted to take red and do a monochromatic hinting of it, we would go from red into a light rose, perhaps into a hot pink, and then into a more of a softer pink. So that's monochromatic, and that's a wonderful way of combining colors. We've seen beautiful pieces that are all done that way. The second one that is very popular to do and is
don't move on yet.
Okay. Oh, look, see, I've got a couple of Vanna Whites in here today. Kathy and Shelley are doing that, and they gave me this, and that shows a monochromatic colorway of this pretty kind of olivey green, where we're going from a very, very light to a very, very dark, often referred to in the knitting world as a gradient package, and very popular. Very popular thing to do. When gradients are blended correctly, they make beautiful garments. And I know that most of you have seen patterns where they've worked together really nicely. So if you aren't interested in the monochromatic scheme, perhaps you would be interested in the complementary scheme. The complementary scheme involves 2 colors, and it's often done like with a big striped scarf or a striped hat. School colors are often complementary colors. Some schools pick their colors off of a color wheel because they think that they'll match. What complementary means is that you're just going to any color on the color wheel and then going exactly opposite. So you'd have this purple and this yellow. Those are complementary colors. And they are guaranteed to go together, but the contrast can be kind of jarring to people. They might not like just, whoa, because it's bright. It's a It really shows each color really stands out on its own. So oftentimes they'll put a neutral in with their complementary colors to kind of tone things down. So just as an aside, we want to talk about neutrals, and we're not going to talk about black as a neutral right now. Black is a kind of a thing unto its own and deserves a whole half hour of its own talk about what black yarn can do for your project. But there's a lot of other neutrals out there besides black. Black is not really considered a neutral in the knitting world, which I didn't know until today when I read that. Other neutrals would be like a tan or a beige. They often are used as neutrals with some earthier tones. So if you were going like with this kind of earthy red and earthy blue, a nice beige in there, or a camel color or a tan would be a really pretty neutral. A neutral that I didn't realize was a neutral because I thought it was just my favorite color, but it is a neutral, is navy blue. That's considered a neutral in the knitting world, and it's should be combined with some of your jewel tones off of the color wheel. That gives a real nice deep richness to your choices of colors. But you don't want to use really bright primary colors with navy blue unless you're doing maybe something for a child that comes off very, primary. But when you get into some of the richer tones of it, navy blue is a great neutral. White is considered a neutral, but there's a lot of interesting things that go with white. That work with white. If you were to take two colors off of this color wheel that are complementary and put them with white, your white is going to become the main color of your thing. Even though you're not using very much of it, white stands out the most. It becomes the dominant color. So even though it is considered a neutral, it's kind of an angry neutral. It really takes over. And so I guess it's not Switzerland. It's more something else. It comes out. So be careful with white. But creams, navies, gray goes with everything. Gray is your best bet for a neutral. You can get a gray that's tinted, with a lot of white to work with white brighter colors. You can get a gray that has some black in it, so it works with your more subdued colors. Gray is the prime neutral in the knitting world. And when you're doing a complementary color scheme with only two colors and you need a neutral, there's some information on neutrals. Okay, moving on with our schemes. Another type of color scheme that is one of my favorites is the analogous color scheme. The analogous color scheme is when you take 2 to 4 colors that are next to each other on a color wheel. So maybe boom, 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 and boom, and put those 4 colors together. It'll always work. They'll always blend. No color is going to be dominant. You can put a dominant color in there if you wanted to. If you were doing a 5-color thing, you might pick the 4 colors for your more moderate tones and then pick something opposite that's going to be the pop. But an analogous colorway is just 3 or 4 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And you can go from the purple into the red and orange. You could stay all kind of in the bluey purple, however it works. Purple and red are very popular together and work beautiful. They're right next to each other on the color wheel. It's going to work. So you can go opposite and get complementary. You can do analogous and get right next to each other. Now, one of the most popular methods that we use is the triadic. All right, that's 3 colors that are equally spaced on a color wheel. So if you're going to pick, if you know you want, I got to do this, everything comes out backwards. If you know you want a blue on your for your main color and you want a couple of colors that are going to complement that blue, well, you can go 3 spaces to the right and 3 spaces to the left, and you'll have the color wheel that's split into thirds. And those 3 colors, Isaac Newton came up with this. You can't argue science. They will go together. And again, you can always add one of our neutrals, navy blue, white, beige, or gray, if you want something that you need a place for your eye to rest. When you use this colorway, again, there's no real dominant color if you chose that scheme. And the last, well, there's 2 more, but the last one is something that, again, is one of the ways that I always choose my color. It's called a split complementary. So if I was to go to this green, I like green, and I wanted to use the complementary scheme, red would be its complement. Well, I'm not making a Christmas sweater, so I don't want red. So a split complementary is when you go to the two that are adjacent to the complement. And they always work. And it's great. They go beautifully together, because that's the whole idea. You want to make something that's going to be harmonious, that's going to be striking to look at, but doesn't scream, whoa, I just threw everything together in the kitchen sink. So there is a science to this. And the last way to do this, well, there's lots more ways, but the last way that we're going to discuss today is the, I think it's pronounced tetradic. It's Tetradic. And that's when you take a set of complementary colors, so maybe purple and yellow, and then combine them with another set of complementary colors. So you're working with 4, and one will complement one, and then the other will be complemented with the 4th. That usually needs a neutral to tie everything together. These neutrals are really important. Remember, don't use black as a neutral. If you're using black, we've got a totally different set of rules, and maybe we'll get to those someday. But white, beige, tan, cream, gray, dark gray. If you think you want black, maybe charcoal gray would be nice. I always think that you don't want to use black when you are as a neutral, because it's so hard to knit with black. But we've got some knitters in here that love black and do beautiful work with black, but it's not, they don't use it as a neutral. So that's just the very beginning of the whole color theory science. It's really interesting, and there's tons of resources available online. You can get great books about color theory. A lot of the things that you find right now on color theory is how people use it to design their websites. So because you got to have something that's eye-catching, something that somebody is interested in while they're reading text but not overwhelmed by. So there's a lot of good stuff out there, but you are more interested in color theory for garments or that kind of thing than, because the website gets a little crazy. You know, they match it up with how to work with text and that kind of thing. But it is an interesting thing to do. This little color theory, this little color chart, I think is really cool, because if you flip it over, it's got a lot of different blends of the different levels of, you know, oh, here's a complementary scheme, here's a split complementary, and you can, sometimes I just want to come in and say, okay, I want all those colors in my sweater because they look so nice together. So a tool for you, when we talked about our tools the other day that we should have in our toolbox for knitting, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get yourself a color wheel and get a little confidence with that using the 4 or 5 schemes that we talked about. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you know that you can come in and you can pick your own colors and not say, because I think it's sad when somebody says, I can't pick colors. You can pick colors, all right? Remember, it's knitting. If it doesn't work, take it out. Use it with something else. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And we are always here to help you if you feel like, no, I still can't do it. But we're going to leave this color wheel we're going to leave this color wheel here in the shop. So if you want to come in and take a look at it and play around and see how things work, we'll be happy to help you out with this. So that's about my time for today. I've enjoyed talking to you. I know it was like, I said, boy, I wanted to let you know I'm going to be gone for the next 3 or 4 Sundays. I'm going to go do a little bit of traveling. I'm happy to get back out there in the world, and we're going to be going up to Cape Cod for a little while, and then going with some family down to North Carolina. So I'm very excited about that. I'm anxious to get back with you after the 4th of July, but while I'm gone, I know Chris is going to be talking about blocking, and I believe she's going to be doing some dyeing with our drunk yarns. If you have ever seen those, some of you come in and say, well, yeah, I can't knit when I'm drinking. Well, drunk yarns means you've dyed the yarns. And then is Suzanne doing the little crochet characters that are so, the amigurumi that are so popular now and that she does so well. So the Facebook Live will still go on, and I'm actually going to watch. It'll be fun to watch, be on the other side of this, and I'm going to type all kinds of comments, see if I throw them off. But I appreciate you watching this, and I hope you still continue. I'll see you when we get back. Come in and see us. And thanks for all your support and for everything you've done to help us to get through all of these crazy times. And stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.